Okay, so this presentation, we'll look at London and how it was before the fire. It will include the end of the Dutch War and the plague of 1665. I will look at the Great Fire and the owners of Cabot and the devastation it caused. I will then finish by looking at future nightmares of London with different suspects. This it's not moving. Okay. This presentation is going to use extracts from Pepys's diary and extracts of a poem entitled Londoners' Lamentations. Using Pepys's diary and the poem has allowed us an insight into London in 1666. Pepys's diary is a personal account of the fire at the time, whilst the poem serves more as a warning to it serving God-fearing people. Pepys was a young man at the time, making his way into the political turmoil of Restoration London. By recording his life, he was building a storehouse of memories. He had Tomlin refers to Pepys as the unequalled self, believing he was selfish as he thought he was better than everybody else, as he ensures everybody knows his status as a naval officer. However, through research, it has become apparent that Pepys's diary was a confessional way of making a clean breast of life by setting out the most triumphant incidents as well as the grave incidents, making them equally important in his life. Pepys's account of the fire could have been similar to that of the reporter, as he gives intricate detail of what was happening at the time, and from personal feelings to domesticity to meeting people and having served the king of the fire. Diaries of the time are very often published and are seen as a prerequisite to the novel. London in 1666 was a dangerous place. Most of the city at the time was behind Roman walls, and it was very cramped. The population density was incredible, as the houses were made of wood and plaster, clustered together in narrow lanes. The heart of the city were its markets, and behind these were nightly taverns. At the time, Britain was changing. King Charles II had been on the throne only 6 years after the British monarchy was restored, following years of civil war and political and religious upheaval. London had already suffered a disaster just the year before the Great Fire, where the bubonic plague of 1665 ran through England, killing thousands. England was also at war with the Dutch and trying to expand overseas with North American colonies and Catholics. Catholics would be thought to be the last enemy of society, although many Britons were still Catholics. As Pepys mentions in his diary of the Great War, of the plague, he talked about taking his family to Woolwich, and the fact that it's actually the plague has almost come to nothing, although the Dutch war still actually goes on by December 1665. This is also reiterated in the poem, as he talks about the three gods' sharpest eyes are and have been as lately shot, civil war, pestilence, and fire, pride and gain, their knives are hot. This implies that he's actually believing that the fire was an act of God, and that he believes that London had been punished for everything that's happened in the past. The fire starts in Thomas Fryer's shop. It is believed that fire left an oven on, leaving the house to catch fire. There have been many different views of this. I'll try and talk about that later. It's believed to start around 12 o'clock, as the poet states. 12 and 1 and midnight up with the fire gat in Pudding Lane and brightly shone. Whereas Pepys wasn't actually woken up until 3, although he decided that the fire wasn't that important or that bad, so he decided to go to bed. If the fire had started at 12, it would have made quite a significant impact by 3 o'clock. Yeah. So However, by the time Pepys got up, he decided to go and call for the king and let the king know what was going on at 7 when he woke up. As he said, I was called for and did tell the king and duke what I saw, and that unless His Majesty could command houses to be pulled down, then he could stop with the fire. It seemed to be troubled, and the king commanded me to go to Lord Mayor and commanded him to spare no houses, but to pull down before the fire in every way. The same goes with London's Lamentations. He mentions that he talks about a gracious king and the Duke of York, but he talks about it as though like it's a factual thing that he's discussing, whereas Pepys is talking about himself and what he's done and how he feels about things and how he feels like, because he's actually talking of the time, whereas this is actually looking back. And then his Lamentations is actually written later on, and it's actually looking back. Yeah. By the afternoon, Pepys found out that 300 houses had been burnt down, as fires had swept through the lanes and through the churches, and by the afternoon it still continued to grew throughout the day, and by the evening flames were more visible and devastation was more evident. Again, Pepys talks about the fires and about how it's devastating everything. It seems like he's taken a personal point of view from this. Obviously, as a diary, he would do. But London's Lamentation is quite factual, and it's actually giving us a warning. By Monday, the fire was burning on East Cheap Street, and raging on Grace Church Street, burning through the waterfront district, hitting Thames Street, and the churches were continuing to burn. Sorry, I've gone too far because it's playing out. Okay, I just can't see that. Right, I just can't. The houses were quite thick. He notes that the houses were quite thick. I just can't on from slide 10, okay? Okay. Right, he notes too that the houses were quite thick, and for the matter for burning, it's pitch and tar and Thames Street, our house oil and wines and burning and other things. He talks about seeing Mr. Isaac Hublon, and states that he's quite particularly dressed and dirty at his door, Dargate. Receiving some of his brother's things whose houses were on fire, and as he says, have been removed from us already. He doubts it, as it proved, that he must have been a little time removed from his house, which is also self-consideration. As he realised that things had got so bad, and that houses were quite easily, as they were made of wood and tar and oil, as they made of the tar and wood and oil, and then quite easily burnt down, and nothing could stop this fire, not even the water that the people were using, and so unless, like the poem says, unless they could actually throw the Thames from it, there's no way of stopping it. So this is what Pepys was trying to do, was to try and knock down houses in order to make a fire break. Yeah, so by the early hours of Wednesday morning, claims we reached the walls of Hall Harry's barking at the foot of Seething Lane. The stones of the church were blackened and the face of the clock set in the tower was burnt. However, despite the fire sweeping all around the churchyard, the church itself sustained no further damage. This actually shows the extent of the damage of the fire. As you can see, it goes from just a little bit where Pepys's house is just over here, and then it goes straight back, and then it sort of sweeps all this way because of the wind. Okay, so by Thursday, Pepys's okay, like he says, on Wednesday, about 2 in the morning, he says, my wife calls me up and tells me a new price of fire. It comes to Barking Church, which is bottom of the lane. I have been finding it so bizarre to pleasantly take her away and took my gold. I lay down in the office again upon W. Hertz Pearl. Being mighty weary and saw my feet were going until I was hardly able to stand. He's talking about how the fire had been getting worse and worse, and how he was hardly able to stand. By this point, he's probably getting quite tired. Whereas, like London's Lamentation, now this is Pepys again, sorry. This Lord, what a sad sight it's to moonlight. He's actually realising how bad it was and actually feeling the effects of it and taking it personally. I think Pepys was actually seen as quite a sensitive kind of person because he's actually seeing and realising the damage fires caused. As he sort of sees that sad sight of the river, see how the river looks. There's no houses, no church near it, everything's gone. And so he's actually gone home to Debbie Button. Was the only man in fashion left in the neighbourhood thereabouts. And all moving their goods and moving their houses to Mars. So you can compare these two because he's talking about the people that are actually leaving. He was just talking about the people that are actually leaving the area, whereas London's Lamentation is actually talking about the women that are lying and the cripples crawling out of their beds. So it's like basically the people that are left behind that can't move. Sorry? Okay, so I'll just sum up then. And just to sum up, Pepys is actually Pepys wrote his diary in order to actually allow himself somewhere so he can actually write and confess himself for personal use, whereas like London's Lamentations actually was written as a warning to other people, and it's written after the actual event, which allowed them to realise the dangers of actually living the way they were.
Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Sorry.
You described Pepys quite early on being like a reporter. Do you think his reporting is particularly accurate? I'm kind of thinking particularly of, the section where he talks about how he went to the king and told the king we should be doing this and the king told him to do that. Do you think that's kind of an accurate sort of report, or do you think in many ways Pepys sort of exaggerates the truth for his own personal kind of diary?
Yeah, I think he exaggerates. He either exaggerates it or it's for personal use. I wouldn't say it's accurate. It's more sort of like a personal thing of how he saw things and how he thought things came out. So, and how it worked for him and his family.
Can I ask you about the poem? Because you call it a warning.
Yeah.
About what?
At the time, a lot of people were quite religious. They're very religious. And this poem is actually anonymous. I haven't been able to find the person who wrote it. But it seems that it was actually a warning because they actually thought the fire was an act of God. And so they actually believed that, God had actually caused the fire in order to warn them about their sins, about their ways, about their whoring, or their gambling, or about how they were living at the time. Because there was a lot of taverns and people were always getting drunk and just basically the way.
Did he go into those kind of specific kinds of sins in the poem? Or was it more general than that?
No, I think it was more general. I think I don't know, I can't remember off by heart. I'm guessing that because it was very sort of focused on what God did and how people were living. I think he was just using it as a way of, sort of saying, you need to change.
Yeah, this is the fire.
Yeah, this is a big act of God because we've had few things.
And did Pepys ever say anything like that?
No, I think Pepys was maybe at the time anyway. Throughout this week, he was more concerned with actually getting help and sort of just stopping the fire really. And afterwards he did mention having nightmares. For about 6 months afterwards, in February, that he mentioned having nightmares. So he obviously was affected by it, and so whether he thought he was actually, it was an act of God, but there were other suspicions, there were other people that were sort of accused of the actual act, of throwing from Thomas Farner, who owned the bakery, to Robert Hubert, who actually admitted that he actually threw a firebomb into Thomas Farner's bakery.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.